one can answer the question why is all traffic which is vertical is for free and all traffic horizontal you have to pay. You never pay for an elevator in a building.
Through these buses there are less cars in the city, so the city is no more for the cars, but it's for recreation, for walking, for biking and so on.
If it's for free, it's better. You don't need a ticket, you don't have to pay. You can just hop on the bus and go further. Yeah. So it's easy.
The hope of reclaiming our cities so they're not completely bogged down in traffic and pollution and all the related health problems that result from that. Miserable places that we can transform our cities.
Ticket is a nonsense for the public transportation.
No cars, of course there will be no accidents.
It's great for environment because we've got less exhaust fumes.
It's easy for Avesta, they are so small. It's easy for Tallinn, they are so big.
The number of cars in today's cities is ever growing. This has led to more air pollution as well as more noise, more traffic jams and more medical costs of victims of traffic accidents. There is also a real deficit of parking spaces in the cities. Today, most of the world's cities are wrestling with the same problems, so public transport needs less and less advertising, and preferring public transport is what would help reduce the number of cars in the cities. Could free public transport be the new idea that saves the world's cities, helping solve their problems?
Free public transport is often seen by opponents as some sort of fantasy, but the City of Tallinn has proven that it can be done, it can be successful and have a major impact in turning things around for the better of the city. The hope of reclaiming our cities so they're not completely bogged down in traffic and pollution and all the related health problems that result from that. Miserable places that we can transform our cities into an environment that is fit for human beings to live a decent life together, and having decent and free public transport, I believe, is an important way and to move people out of the cars and move around the city together through public transport. And to do that, you really need to make it very attractive, and making it free with decent buses and trams and vehicles is the way to do it.
Big traffic jams in the world's metropolises are becoming a really big, disastrous problem. Yet it was not so bad mere 10 years ago. 4 of the world's 5 largest traffic jams of all time happened in recent 5 years, from 2010 to 2013. One of the reasons is certainly that same fast growth of the middle class. People can afford more cars, but the more cars there are, the bigger the traffic jams that occur. Another reason is urbanization. The more people gather in cities, the bigger the jams become.
public transit immediately becomes one of the main issues because of the concentration of people in urban cities. You know, majority of the world's population now lives in urban areas. That's going to continue to increase, and we're dealing with more and more mega cities everywhere. So that requires a lot of imagination in planning, democracy, and so on. It's, you know, obviously then public transit has to become a crucial component of it in building. Now it becomes, you know, really tricky between how you're going to rebuild some of the old European and Asian cities, and then in these new mega cities it's another issue. But there's a need to rediscover democracy and planning structures and so on addressing this. I think public transit is absolutely a crucial way if these mega cities are going to be livable.
Population keeps growing. This is mainly a problem in Asia and Africa. But traffic jams, increasing air pollution, noise, parking problems, all this happens not just in countries with a fast population increase. There are several countries in Europe facing a great challenge of their population decreasing drastically, but they still have those same problems.
As urbanization is growing in mega cities enormously, I think mobility is one of the biggest problems in organizing the city for the future. And so we must think very wise how to plan these cities and how to organize activities within the city. Nearby, for more walking or more biking, I think bikes will be a big solution. Could be a big solution for a lot of cities.
What is important of public transport, that it is available to us. We have the habit to pay for things we use. You buy something, you do something, you are sitting somewhere in a theater, in a cinema, whatever, and you pay. And we have transferred that thinking to the bus, while in fact the bus is something totally different. The bus gives people freedom to go somewhere. People who have no car available, they can reach a point. So the availability of public transport, that is what has a value, and that we use, and that is important.
In many big cities like Paris and London, the solution is their subway, offering an alternative to traffic jams, environment problems, noise and parking woes. Yet it would be utopia to establish a subway in Jakarta, for example. It would be too expensive and too time-consuming. But while the solutions are being sought, the number of cars in cities keeps growing. More and more bottlenecks appear there, and this sows the seeds of new big disasters for the cities of today's urbanizing world.
In the big North American cities, you know, Toronto, Vancouver, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Houston, whatever, all of them have a point where there's gridlock in the major cities. You just can't move because of the amount of cars. So there's even a purely mechanical, logical reason to be expanding public transit. And as soon as you do that, you have the question of how it should be priced and the equity issues involved with that.
We see that free public transport is great because we've got more passengers in buses, we've got less cars in the city. Our roads are almost empty because a lot of people decide to go for work or to school by bus and not for cars. It's great for environment because we've got less fumes, exhaust fumes. That's why we see only these pros about free public transport, and we've got great experience. We've got a lot of passengers, and before this free public transport have started, our buses were empty because tickets were very expensive for people, and then they decide to go for work by their own cars or by bike even.
It's a great idea. It's an idea that would probably bring less traffic, less air pollution, and even better social habits for the citizens.
we call it the new kind of thinking. Through these buses, there are less cars in the city, so the city is no more for the cars, but it's for recreation, for walking, for biking and so. That's the great difference.
Actually, in the area, we have adopted the free bus transportation. The road congestion has been greatly improved, and we have controlled the number of the passengers who have used the private cars and other vehicles. And in the near future, we want to make more surveys and research to determine whether we should expand our free bus transportation to other areas to make our transportation much better.
Beijing becomes more modern with each passing year, with more cars appearing in the city. The city leaders have tried to solve the situation by making it harder to buy a car, for instance. To be able to buy a car at all, you need a car buying permit here, and the permit is available to only those who have worked in Beijing for at least 5 years. There's a car in almost every family in Beijing, a city of 25 million people. If the current trend continues, the future may see 2 cars in most of the families. One of the sanctions that the city government has applied is that cars with license plates ending in 1 and 6 must not drive in the city on Mondays, those ending in 2 and 7 on Tuesdays, those ending in 3 and 8 on Wednesday, and so on. Yet, this provides only a cosmetic relief because traffic jams are still bigger than ever in Beijing. Not to mention parking problems and noise, environmental pollution and other aspects. In Europe, congestion tax is proposed as a solution. Since the beginning of 2015, the congestion tax in the Swedish cities of Stockholm and Gothenburg is paid by not only the locals but also cars with foreign license plates. The tax was established to level out the traffic flows and to prevent possible traffic jams in the city centers during peak hours.
Every city needs its own program, and congestion tax, Singapore of course is the biggest example in the world. I'm pretty sure Stockholm is not exactly the same solution as Singapore, but it's fine. Everywhere you have to look for new modalities.
Well, most interesting is what has been done in London. London has a congestion charges, and London has a lot of innovative projects to invest in various types of public transport, for instance, hydrogen buses and others, and London really has limited the access to the center of city. So they have introduced a congestion charge. There are a lot of circles who are very much in favor, but it depends depends on electorate. What taxpayers will decide. Are they happy to pay a certain fee entering the city, or are they not paying a fee? I sincerely believe that this will, the congestion charging will increase.
But a much better solution to this situation than congestion tax, subway construction or other complex systems of restrictions by license plate or otherwise is free public transport. Maybe it's indeed free public transport that could save cities from the disaster of traffic jams, reduce the air pollution in the cities to make it healthier to live there, reduce noise, minimize the medical costs of traffic accident victims, and solve the problem of parking spaces. Actually, free public transport has many more positive aspects than it seems on the surface. For many city governments, the only option is indeed to prioritize the development of public transport, plus also create opportunities for bicycle use, of course. In Jakarta, the situation is made easier by the number of scooters and motorbikes there. If those were cars, the city would be in for a much bigger disaster. So, there's a new trend taking the world by storm. There are nearly 100 cities soon where public transport is partly or fully free. What is free public transport? And could this be the one idea that saves the world's cities?
think it's a combination of those. If you can make a sustainable municipality with both economic equality, social benefits, and growth, because we need growth as well. So it's the combination of those. In Sweden, other municipalities say it's easy for Avesta. They are so small, 22,000 inhabitants. And when I found out in Estonia, the other municipalities said it's easy for Tallinn, they are so big. So I think that both Tallinn and Avesta can show that it's for a small Swedish municipality, the benefits are the same as for a European capital. It's the environmental benefits, the social benefits, and the growth.
For a fact, it's a large concept with many different aspects: environmental, social, economic, political, plus many more aspects. The world's largest city offering free public transport for everyone is Chengdu, China. In this city of 16 million people, all public transport except subway is free for all residents of the city from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. It alleviates the morning traffic jams.
There are many advantages. Firstly, it will bring great convenience to our passengers, and secondly, they will reduce the cost of their trips. And thirdly, we hope we can bring more public transportation to our passengers and citizens for their work, for their shopping, and for their trips.
Well, I'm very charmed by the Chengdu measurements they've taken out to have it free before peak hours. And they flatten down the rush hour. And these early people who come early in, they leave early, so it has effect on the evening peak hour too. So that are things which could be used in some sort of smart mobility planning or sustainable mobility planning.
There are so many changes happening at the moment, new ways of having mobility. If we start paying for parking everywhere, which is a social invention, it would stop car domination. Because for now, for people, the parking is for free for most places. If you look at the way people work, you go to work at other times. In Chengdu, the buses are free between 5 and 7 in the morning, which means people who have less money, they go to work before 7 o'clock. So the congestion is diminishing. It's a very strange development. Now, I guess that in our cities we are going to have the same.
The most well-known city offering free public transport is London instead, where public transport is free for all children up to 11 years old. It means that millions of young people use and enjoy actual free public transport every day. The environmental aspect is important here. Paris was also forced to provide free public transport due to air pollution. The social aspect is important as well, because many of the poorer people simply have no money to buy a bus ticket every day. And Tallinn's example has proven that it can also be a very reasonable economic step.
Ega me täna ei pea küsima enam, et miks on tasuta ühistransport. Täna on aeg küsida, miks inimesed maksavad ühistranspordi kasutamise eest. Olukorras, kus ühistransporti subsideeritakse juba kõvasti üle poole, Euroopas 60-70% tavaliselt, et põhjendada seda subsiidiumit, tuleb tegelikult põhjendada transpordi eest maksmist, mitte vastupidi. Olukorras, kus suur osa inimesi tegelikult ei saa ühistranspordi kasutada selle hinna pärast. Sellest nõiaringist, kus ühistranspordi kasutamine langeb tänu piletihinna tõusu survele, tuleb väljuda ja üks väljapääsu tee kindlasti on see, mida Tallinn pakub, mida paljud teised linnad pakuvad, see on tasuta ühistransport.
Tallinn's example is phenomenal. For every 1,000 residents, the city earns personal income tax of nearly 1 million euros per year. 20,000 new residents have increased the city's budget with more tax receipts, estimably by at least 15 million euros. The deputy mayor of Tallinn, Taavi, says that free public transport is the simplest option in a situation of ever-increasing subsidies paid to buses. Especially so in East Europe, where people are inevitably poorer than those in the West.
Vanades Euroopa riikides, kus elanikkond on jõukam, on ka suurem tegelikult see osa, mida makstakse, elanik ise maksab piletitasuks ja meie piirkonnas paraku on nii, et kus elanikkond ei ole nii jõukas, on ka see piletitulem palju väiksem.
Free public transportation is a huge concept with so many positive aspects. Of course, there is a social aspect because many people cannot afford a ticket. Of course, there is an environmental aspect, less air pollution, less traffic, less cars and so on. Of course, there is a political aspect, but there is a very important aspect which is an economical aspect. For example, here in Avesta, which is 150 kilometers from Stockholm, they made a decision because it's a smart decision economically.
Our aim from the beginning was, as you say, environmental benefits and social benefits and equality benefits, and we can see that the groups that travels more by bus now is young and elder, so it's the groups with smaller or less income than others. So that's good for the equality, but it's also good for the growth of the municipality. And in Avesta we are an old industrial municipality. We had a decrease of population since 50 years back, and for the first time in many years, 2013 we had a population growth, and 2014 we had a population growth by 2.2%, which put us 9th place in Sweden in the municipalities, and that's very, very good.
In the local elections 2010 in Sweden, the political parties of Avesta promised various solutions.
If we won the election, the Social Democrats, we are the biggest party, so we are sort of in charge of the economy. So our thoughts was, can we afford it? But then after the election, we looked at different alternatives, and the far most best alternative was to have it free for everybody, because the loss of ticket revenue, 4.6 million Swedish crowns per year, it's almost equal to the amount that we paid for administering the ticket system.
As the population of Avesta is now growing, the city's tax receipt does as well. The effect is the same as in Tallinn. The locals of Avesta have also received free public transport very well.
Ja, för mig är det ju toppen. Ja. I och med att sjukdom har gjort att jag kan inte köra bil är det ju hur bra som helst. Alltså.
Vi åker från Fors till stan. Inte så jätteofta, men det går jättebra. Det är kanonbra.
Och det är för att det är gratis och vi kan åka så här.
Ja.
There are markedly fewer cars driving in Avesta now, and there are no traffic jams. The number of bus passengers has grown nearly by 100%. Lars Isaksson is convinced that the free public transport in Avesta will remain as surely as the other two symbols of the city. The giant red horse that's also in Guinness World of Records, and the bison in the city center park. The world's largest city providing free public transport to all its residents, Tallinn, with its population of 435,000, is among the few major cities where the number of cars in the city center is not rising anymore. The number has not gone down noticeably, but the amount of cars does not grow in that city either. Compared to Asia, the problems are wholly different here. The city tries to increase its population instead. Estonia's biggest challenge is the drastic decline of its population due to emigration. The only administrative unit in Estonia where the population grows is Tallinn. And indeed, this is mostly thanks to free public transport. People register as official locals to have free ride in Tallinn's buses, trolleybuses, trams, but also in trains. Since the city implemented free public transport, its population has grown by 19,500 people. It was economically reasonable for Tallinn to do it because the annual ticket sales were 17 million, 12 million of which were subsidized anyway, so just 5 more million were to be paid for. Why not subsidize all of it?
Maailmas see teema töötab, seda teemat arutatakse, siis tegelikult kui me loeme näiteks uudiseid Brasiilia tänavarahutustest, mis põrkusid või vallandusid ühistranspordi hinna tõstmisest, siis tegelikult üks nõudmine tänaval oli nõuame tasuta ühistransporti. Viidati Tallinnale, viidati Prantsusmaa linnadele. See teema veab globaalselt ja see on kindlasti jälgitakse väga tähelepanelikult, kuidas Tallinnal läheb. Ja Tallinnal on hea meel öelda, et meil see asi on õnnestunud.
In summary, it has become Tallinn's really profitable project. As long as the number of residents grows, Tallinn will only gain from it. The budget of public transport has increased from 53 million euros to 61 million. These include operating costs and bus purchases, but not the construction of bus stations, for instance. Essentially, the amount has been invested into public transport, and the people have factually gained from the project. The environmental aspect is also very important in free public transport. Some time ago, Paris was forced to provide free public transport due to high air pollution. In France, Auburn and 12 other cities have provided free public transport.
La gratuité des transports a été mise en place le 15 mai 2009, donc il y a un petit peu plus de 4 ans. Il s'agit d'une gratuité totale pour les utilisateurs du réseau, quel que soit leur lieu d'habitation, c'est-à-dire qu'ils résident dans une des communes de l'agglomération ou pas.
In Geneva, Switzerland, public transport is free for all tourists presenting a plane ticket. In Brazil, there are 7 cities where public transport is known to be free. In the USA, as many as 22 cities have tried free public transport. In a word, the idea of free public transport is currently taking the world by storm. So what else is good in that idea, making so many cities plan to implement it? In addition to Europe's use of free public transport to increase the population, and by extension the city budget, one of the most intriguing aspects of is instead political. As Tallinn Mayor Edgar Savisaar and Francis Bolde approved, including it among election promises is an ingenious way to gather votes. While the implementing of free public transport in Tallinn brought many votes to the current city government and was an important factor in the Centre Party's overwhelming win in the elections, the political aspect was also important in Romania. For example, in a small city called Lugos, 500 kilometers from Bucharest. The mayor of the city of 50,000 people is Francis Boldea, who achieved a real record in the latest Romanian local elections. As much as 76% of Lugos eligible votes were given to him. This is a historical achievement in Romanian local elections. One of the reasons why he managed to become so popular is that his election promise was free public transport for all.
Eu mai întâi am câștigat cu 76% și după aceea, la un an după alegerile din 2012, în 2013, în 1 iulie, am introdus transportul gratuit. Dar eu nu i-am mințit niciodată pe oameni. Având un electorat puternic în spate, am putut să iau această decizie și de când sunt primar de 7 ani, eu nu am mărit niciodată vreo taxă sau vreun impozit către populație. Am rămas la cele de acum 7 ani.
Social Democrats ascertained their power in Lugos and kept their promise. They bought 5 new buses, and this was exactly this tiding of public transport. The new buses and the free public transport that opened many hearts for the mayor.
Am o părere foarte bună, deși n-am folosit niciodată, pentru că sunt bicicleta de obicei, dar am înțeles că sunt oameni care se folosesc cu bucurie de treaba asta. Pentru că sunt care locuiesc la marginea orașului, se pot deplasa mai ușor așa.
Dacă până atunci aveam, că noi facem și acum după ce este gratuitatea aplicată, noi numărăm călătorii care urcă și coboară, șoferii raportăm zilnic aproximativ numărul, dacă scapă 1 sau 2 nu contează, dar în momentul de față am ajuns la 30.000 de călători pe lună. Până atunci aveam în jur de 10 ori a crescut.
It was actually also critically needed in that city because children living outside of it could not attend school as their parents had no money for the bus tickets. Moreover, poor people could not get to the city at all, so the mayor lent them a hand and implemented free public transport. The decision netted him huge social capital, that is, the votes of the poorer people. In Romania, where the minimum wage is 190 euros, the social and political aspect of the free public transport is currently spreading like wildfire. Who knows how many mayors will use it to ensure their power by promising it to the population in the coming year's elections. The city of Timișoara, with its 320,000 people, is situated about 560 kilometers from the capital city of Bucharest. The deputy mayor of Timișoara, Dan Diaconu, admits that he got the inspiration for free public transport from Tallinn. They have already conducted a test period for free public transport as well. During the 2 months of December 2013 and January 2014, public transport in Timișoara was free for all. Now they're analyzing the results, and according to the deputy mayor, they're definitely considering the option to implement free public transport.
We are still thinking of the free public transport in Timișoara. We are still analyzing and trying to see for the next years how the budget will increase and how we can still cover these costs. It's a great idea. It's an idea that would probably bring less traffic, less air pollution, and even better social habits for the citizens of Timișoara.
Zic că ar trebui să fie pentru toată lumea. La ora actuală e pentru pensionari și pentru cei care sunt bolnavi. Ar fi bine să fie pentru toată lumea.
E ok ideea, dar mi se pare așa, zic, mai bine să permițeze toată lumea să aibă parte de gratuitate, pentru că sunt unii copii sau studenți care nu au bani și e mai bine așa. Și chiar și cei care, de exemplu, lucrează, sunt...
In the city of Ploiești, nearly 20 kilometers of tram tracks were in repairs in January 2014 to prevent people from using cars instead of trams and causing many traffic jams. It was decided that free public transport should be offered. According to the technical director of the city's transportation department, the use of public transport has increased almost twofold, as nearly everyone can ride free on the public transport of Ploiești.
Deci faptul că tot ploieșteanul circulă gratuit, cei cu venit cu 3.000 de euro, numărul s-a dublat.
It is the second largest city in the world after Tallinn that provides free public transport to all its residents, only with an exception. Public transport is free for anyone earning less than 3,000 lei, this is Romanian currency. This essentially means that if your income is below 680 euros, you can ride for free.
Sprijinul constă în acordarea acestei facilități, gratuitate pe mijloacele de transport în comun pentru toți cei care au domiciliul în Ploiești și au venituri sub 3.000 de lei. Bineînțeles, la aceștia se adaugă și categoriile mai puțin favorizate, pensionarii și cei care sunt la studii în Ploiești, fie că sunt ei studenți sau elevi.
Cei care foloseau mijloace de transport proprii le utilizează mai puțin sau deloc și ceilalți ploieșteni care mergeau foarte puțin pe jos, în condițiile actuale, au preferat preferă să meargă cu mijloacele de transport. Am asigurat capacitatea prin activarea unui număr de 30 de autobuze din parcul propriu.
Adică mai ți ajunge banii mai bine. Ar fi foarte bine, pentru că alocațiile sunt destul de mici și nu toți au posibilitatea de a merge cu taxiul sau cu mașina personală.
And indeed, the social aspect is what is very important in free public transport. People have low incomes in East Europe, and this means less ticket revenue in turn. With lower incomes, people need every social bonus they are granted. So the immense popularity of free public transport in Romania, Estonia, but also in Poland, for instance, is entirely understandable. So, to reduce traffic jams and noise, to solve the deficit of parking spaces, and to reduce air pollution, cities need to attract more and more people away from their cars into public transport. A real success story of free public transport is the Belgian city of Hasselt, one of the world's most successful providers of free public transport. In 15 years, the number of bus passengers grew faster than ever there. In 1996, 360,000 people in Hasselt used buses. In 2006, they numbered as high as 4.3 million. It was a phenomenal growth.
Hasselt developed enormous. We had a lot of more inhabitants in Hasselt, more economic users, more visitors to Hasselt. We are the fourth shopping city of Belgium. It grew enormous. I think if it's for free, it's better, because you don't have to need a ticket. Don't need a ticket. You don't have to pay. You can just hop on the bus and go further. So it's easy.
Public transport is not free anymore in Hasselt, but historically, the city was an immensely successful implementer of free public transport.
In the Flanders, you have a regional government, and the regional government pays 75% of the total exploitation costs of the public transport in Flanders. It is in our region, and the 25% that left needs to be paid by the users, so by tickets, buying tickets, and we only paying that 25% for the ticket users. And the money is from taxes from the inhabitants, and with that taxes we pay the bus company.
What do the skeptics and opponents say? Mostly that nothing in the world is really free except the air that we breathe. It's not easy to put a price on that. Yet the elevators and escalators are free for everyone. Nobody would think to demand a single cent for their use. Why should it be any different for public transport? Asked Michael van Hulten, a Dutch researcher.
Is an idea which lives in some political circles and in some small towns like Zaari and in big towns like Tallinn. And it seems it's not growing. It's just where people see the light, if I may say so. There they do it because they realize how beneficial it is for a city, for any environment in which people have to get around. It's so much better than cars. It's unbelievable. And for me, it's ununderstandable why, no one can answer the question, why is all traffic which is vertical is for free and all traffic horizontal you have to pay? You never pay for an elevator in a building or for an escalator in a shop. We find that normal. But when we start talking about traveling for free in a horizontal direction, it's not possible. It's ridiculous.
We have never paid for elevators and escalators because their use is already included in the price of goods and services. But what is so different about public transport? According to the lively old gentleman, the final goal of the promoters of free public transport should be that public transport is free in the entire European Union.
Then I had to think for my business about the future of urbanization in Europe, and that was in the 60s and 70s. And I was joined to an international group who was trying to develop ideas about future cities. And not in the sense of technology, which is mostly done, but in the sense of let us change habits. Can we make better cities if people behave in a different way? Now, one of the sub-questions was, if people in behaving are not going to cars but are going to public transport, what happens to a city? That's a very interesting question. A lot happens to a city. And that inspired me, and I have continued to think about it for all those years since then. All the gasoline is being exhausted. We don't want to be dependent anymore on Saudi Arabia and on Mr. Putin and his crew over there in Russia. Those are two external reasons. And internally, I think we learn at the moment more and more to deal with each other, to share things, not to have everything in your own propriety. A car is a little bit like a room in your house, it's yours. And nevertheless, we leave it 23 hours outside and we don't use it. Now that's going to change, I'm absolutely sure. I hope still to see it. I think the dividing line is those who are willing to look at their neighbors in the first place and then come themselves second. And if you are more interested in your own well-being and your own welfare, then there's less chance that you are in favor of this. It's more community thinking, it is more solidarity, it's more working together, living together, enjoying together. Then you get public transport free.
A step towards pan-European free public transport was made in the city of Zori in Poland, Silesia, as the conference was held there introducing free public transport. The mayor of Zori, Waldemar Socha, hosting the conference was unabashedly joyful, just like his city's new white buses carrying the signs "Zero slots" meaning free. The historical Zori, with its 61,000 residents, made history again just recently, making the city's public transport free of ticket changes since the 1st of May 2014. Some Polish humor is also added. The bus sides are decorated by posters showing a man hiding in a luggage space. The message is that of no worries about savings, no need to hide from ticket inspectors, just step on and ride free.
We have free of charge public transport for everybody, not only for our citizens, and I think it was best of our ideas because it's no more expensive than it was previous. When it was paid, it was even cheaper, and the number of clients using public transport has grown by 4. So we are very satisfied with this. I think it's going to be more and more ecological. So people decide to leave their cars at home and they move by public transport.
In Poland, ticket expenses grew higher and higher, and there were fewer and fewer people in buses. It was easier to take your own car. The old way would have led to a situation of spending large sums of money just to keep a fleet of near-empty buses running. Poland is seeing a kind of shoulder-to-shoulder attitude to free public transport. The start was made by Nysa and Ząbki, followed by Gostyń and Zori. And since the 1st of September 2014, Lubin has transitioned to free public transport.
We don't have rich people going every day for city center with the banks. Like we are not London. For who is the free transportation system? I think in each countries. For people who don't have enough money, for people who don't have a car, for people who still study or going to school.
Public transport without ticket charge has decidedly raised Ząbki's attractiveness among other cities near Warsaw. As free public transport is intended for the city's permanent residents, the number of people registering as locals has grown, and the tax receipt has grown as well.
It's more popular. Now people are just squeezed in our buses. They are going to schools, to getting any other transportation system like trains, other buses, Warsaw buses, to get to the work, to the university. And it's such popularity that we have to run it each line every 10 minutes in rush hours, and it's just not enough.
150 million euros. This is how much the medical treatment of traffic accident victims costs in Italy every year, says Italian Paolo Vernano. According to Vernano, 74% of Italians currently commute with their personal cars, the rest use public transport, bicycles and their own feet.
And in my opinion, the health is not lied only with the medicine. We can look at the health people, the healthy of the people also in different way. And one of the way is the prevention of a certain type of problems, certain type of health. I mean, also a big problem with allergy, with the crash, with the accident of the cars, are because there are cars in the street. So the problem of the pollution, the problem of the health of the people, the broncho system, it's made a big percentage is made by the car in the street, so the traffic jam, etc. One of the system to prevent this is to have less car in the street. So the public transport is a solution of this. Then after some study, I saw that in Tallinn it was this type of solution, and the idea is that growing up the train, if we grow up the public transportation, we can have lower car in the street.
But on average in Italy, a ton or two of pure metal and innumerable horsepowers move just 1.3 people around. And it's hardly much different in the rest of Europe. But the Italian media is silent about this, and Paolo Vernano suspects that it is on purpose. The authorities are hushing up the opportunities of free public transport.
Media and normal culture, political culture, said us that with the ticket we can have the economical power to have public transportation. Our study said that it's not correct. It's a very, very little part of the all economical public transportation system. It's made by the ticket. The big part is public investment. We think we made the calculation that over the 95% is made by the public economy. So is this the ticket right for the public transport, or is for in a certain time idea for low people that use public transport?
To be very simple, every euro invested in free public transport returns 4 euros. According to Vernano, not only the economy becomes livelier, the medical costs of people also decrease, from traffic accidents to air pollution-related illnesses.
Normally they don't agree at all with the free public transport, because they say we don't have the money for the ticket. The problem is that the two other problems, or they don't know exactly the economy of all the public transportation, or even they, I don't want to say they lie to us, but however they don't want that we know that the ticket is a nonsense for the public transportation.
Still, no car driving brings only little savings, because more than half of the pollution comes from car manufacture, and this needs to be reduced as well. If just 10% of drivers gave up their personal cars, we could save 10% of hospital costs in Italy. This alone is 15 million euros per year.
All the street lights are paid collectively. All the sidewalks are paid for collectively. All the road signs are paid for collectively. Why not the public transport?
I think the public transit movement is a movement for transit justice in the first instance, but it soon becomes a question of free transit, and I think free transit is one of the ways to turn around a whole kind of political vision of the world and how human beings govern themselves, because you then put it in terms of finding non-market mechanisms and cooperation, communication, democracy for thinking about how you will build public transit. So I think it becomes a necessary mechanism right now for the problems of the city, a necessary response to global climate change, and very pressing. But it also is a means to recapture an alternative vision of how we can govern ourselves.
Every city again needs its own solution. I cannot give a standard solution which you can use everywhere. But what I try to reach is that the present situation in our type of society, Northwestern Europe, where half of the population in daytime has no means of locomotion available. They can walk and bicycle, but there is no bus. Bus lines have gone away, bus stops have been liquidated. That 50% of the population, older people, women, children, young people working, those are without any means of transportation. That should disappear. And that can only be done by public transportation. And the car solution is a dead end. There's so many cars, so many centers of cities are destroyed by cars. We should stop that nonsense.
So, in a word, increasing air pollution, noise, traffic jams, medical costs of traffic accident victims, widespread lack of parking spaces. Most of the world's cities are really facing the same problems, and today, the best and the cheapest solution to those worries is free public transport.